Good morning. Welcome to my thought for the day. Today I'm going to look at the story of Caleb, the son of Jephunneh. Now, if you've not read the Old Testament, you may not know the story of Caleb. If you want to read the full story, you need to go back to Numbers chapter 13 and chapter 14, which tells the story of after the descendants of Israel, the children of Israel, had been brought out of Egypt by Moses after all the plagues had happened. They crossed the Red Sea and they were approaching the promised land. This was before the 40 years wandering around the wilderness. And this was the reason that they did wander around for 40 years. It was because as they approached the land, Moses picked out 12 leaders, one from each of the tribes, and he sent them into the land. And for 40 days, they wandered round the different parts of the land, the promised land, the land of Canaan, and looked at different areas and brought back a report to Moses. And 10 of them, they all brought back the same idea, that it was a wonderful land. It was a land full of milk and honey. It was a fantastic place. It was prosperous. The fruit, it was so beautiful and so large that it even required 2 of them to carry one bunch of grapes on a pole between their shoulders. It was so fruitful. It was such a wonderful land. But 10 of them said, but the people and the cities, they're terrible. They're giants. We're like grasshoppers. We can't possibly go in and conquer this land. We can't do it. It's unbelievable. It's impossible. And Caleb and Joshua brought a different report. They said they agreed with the assessment of the land, but they said, if God is with us, it's not a problem. If he's with us, he's promised us the land. Look at all the things he's done for us in the past. And unfortunately, the advice of the 10 outweighed the advice of the 2, and Joshua and Caleb were almost stoned by the people because they didn't want to dare to go. And God was very angry with them, and as a result, for 1 year, for each day that those spies had spied out the land, that was why it was 40 years that they spent in the wilderness, because they were 40 days that those 12 men had searched out the land. And so in that 40 years, the whole generation that had said, we want to go back to Egypt, we don't want to go, we're not going to do it, who'd rebelled, that whole generation died, except for Moses, of course, and Aaron, and Joshua, and Caleb. Of course, by the time we get to the passage we're going to read, which is in Joshua chapter 14, they have spent 5 years after that 40-year period, having reached the promised land, having gone in and taken Jericho and Ai and other cities. They are in the land, taking possession of the land, and it's taken all that time. And I'm looking at Joshua chapter 14, where it says, then the people of Judah came to Joshua at Gilgal, and Caleb, the son of Jephunneh, the Kenizzite, said to him, you know what the Lord said to Moses, the man of God, in Kadesh Barnea, concerning you and me. I was 40 years old when Moses, the servant of the Lord, sent me from Kadesh Barnea to spy out the land. And I brought him word again as it was in my heart. But my brethren who went up with me made the heart of the people melt. Yet I wholly followed the Lord my God. And Moses swore on that day, saying, surely the land on which your foot has trodden shall be an inheritance for you and your children forever, because you have wholly followed the Lord my God. And now, behold, the Lord has kept me alive, as he said, these 45 years, since the time that the Lord spoke this word to Moses, while Israel walked in the wilderness, and now, lo, I am this day 85 years old. I'm still as strong to this day as I was in the day that Moses sent me. My strength now is as my strength was then, for war and for going and coming. So now give me this hill country of which the Lord spoke on that day. For you heard on that day how the Anakim were there with great fortified cities. It may be that the Lord will be with me, and I shall drive them out, as the Lord said." Then Joshua blessed him, and he gave Hebron to Caleb the son of Jephunneh for an inheritance. So Hebron became the inheritance of Caleb the son of Jephunneh, the Kenizzite, to this day, because he wholly followed the Lord, the God of Israel. Now Caleb has always been a hero of mine because of his faithfulness to God. He saw the same thing that the other spies saw, but he saw God. He saw God. He had his faith planted in God, and he knew that if God was with him, nothing would stop him. And he took Hebron, but he waited. He waited patiently for the timing to be right. And when the timing was right, he said, "Give me this mountain. Give me what I've been promised." And sometimes, we do have to wait a long time for God to give us the thing that he promised us. There may be all sorts of reasons, and the fault may not be ours for the delay. It certainly was not Caleb's fault that it was delayed 45 years. But he wasn't bitter. He didn't turn his back on the people that he lived with and served with. He kept faith, and he followed. He followed the Lord wholeheartedly. And it was very early on in my Christian life that I went to a youth weekend, and the subject was the spies, and the whole conquest of Canaan was the subject matter of the weekend. And it was all about being like Caleb and Joshua, following the Lord wholeheartedly with everything that we have. And this is what Caleb did. He followed the Lord wholeheartedly, and he waited till the moment that the promise could be fulfilled. And then he, in all boldness, went up and said, "Give me this mountain, give me this hill country of which the Lord spoke on that day." He kept the promise that God had given him in his heart, and he let it stay there, settle there in his heart. And he waited, and he served. He served. He was given it as an inheritance because he wholly followed the Lord, the God of Israel. Wholeheartedness, not half-heartedness, wholeheartedness. With everything that we have in us, with every breath, with every intellect, with every ability, we yield it to him for his service, and we serve, and we serve. And his service is perfect freedom. It is the best thing we can ever do, to live for Jesus, to live for God. And Caleb proved that. I don't know how he did it, because he had to live through 40 years when all his peers, all the people of his generation died in that 40 years. And he was there all that time. He saw them all go. And he waited. And he waited until the time for the promise came. But it says on the other side of it that God is faithful. God does not forget his promises to us. He doesn't forget. He keeps it in his heart. He keeps it in his heart. He fulfills to us every promise that he has ever made. He'll not let you down, but you may have to wait what feels like forever. Because you see, we are programmed as a generation to expect instant results. If you, like me, have ever ordered anything from Amazon and it's delivered the next day, we don't have to wait for anything. And we don't even have to save up and wait for anything, because for a generation, certainly, we've had these things called credit cards, and we can pay for something before we've even got the money for it. We don't have to save like we used to have to save. You used to have to save for so long that by the time you had enough money to buy something, you actually didn't need it anymore. I can remember when that was like that. But we're so used to instant results. We are very bad at waiting. Wait for the promise. It will surely come. But sometimes, well, always, it's got to be God's timing. It's got to be the right moment. And he knows the right moment. Patient, wait for those who wait for the Lord, renew their strength. That's what Isaiah says, doesn't he? Waiting is hard. Caleb, what a wonderful example he is to us. God bless you. Have a great day. Bye-bye.